All right. Well, it's 9:02, so why don't I go ahead and get started?
That works. It's been a whole minute.
All right. I don't have a list of who's on. Renee says there are about 20 people on the line. So what we really wanted to accomplish with this webinar was to really give the moderators an overview of how to proceed, how to conduct your panels, how to orient your panelists, and how to make sure that everything kind of stays on time. Now, before I get into the whole moderation components of it, I just wanted to kind of give everybody that's on the call a little overview of the updates to the meeting. Just so everybody's aware, there are 7 cadaver labs that are set up for this meeting in Chicago, and they're going to take place on Friday and Saturday. So there'll be multiple sessions throughout the day with instructors, cadavers. It's going to basically go head to toe. There will be aesthetic cadavers, rhinoplasty cadavers, breast, extremities, you name it. Other things, the hot topics and reboot your practice, always popular. So basically, the goal is to encourage people to attend. Senior Residence Conference and Residence Day, as always. I think that's going to take place either on Thursday or Friday. Renee, I can't remember the exact date, but she certainly has it. This year's meeting is
Senior Conference is Thursday and Residence Day is on Friday.
Perfect. This year, there's going to be more concurrent sessions than in the years past. This year, so far, we've got up to 20 concurrent things going on at any one time. Last year, I think, we maxed out at maybe about 15 or 16. So this year, it's even more comprehensive. So timing is going to be very important. So when we conduct these panels, we got to make sure we stay on time, keep it organized, because people are going to have to go from one session to another, and the clock is going to be very important. In terms of other things, opening ceremonies will be at the Navy Pier this year, and that is going to be on that Friday evening. There's going to be a 5K run on Sunday morning. Plastic Surgery Foundation is sponsoring the Dana-Carvey live event, which will be on Sunday evening. So that's something that we should really encourage, our panelists and everybody we come in contact with to attend. I think it'll be really exciting. And closing ceremonies and the celebration is going to occur on Monday evening, which will basically coincide with the conclusion of the meeting. So this meeting is going to be more compact, more comprehensive than in years past. So there's going to be more going on at any one time, and it's going to all occur within a shorter time span. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit, talk about panel moderation and kind of some leadership tips. If you haven't done this already, it's going to be important for all the moderators to contact the panelists. Call them, email them, any way you can. Start to coordinate how you want your panel to be run. So it's really going to be up to the moderator to decide the speaking order, to overview the topics, and to make sure that people are on time. So if somebody has a 10-minute topic or a 15-minute topic, and you see in their slide deck that they have 200 slides, clearly we're going to have a bit of a problem. So it's really going to be on the moderator to make sure that the slides are appropriately created, not too excessive. The length of it, in terms of having it too short, is okay because you can talk through things. But when you've got a slide deck that is way too expensive, you'll just never be able to get through it. Trust me, we've all been in this situation, and sometimes we have to make those hard calls 2 minutes into the termination phase to basically have somebody wrap it up. Because it's going to be important to stay on time. People are going to have to finish. We got to leave time for Q&A. If you don't have emails or contact information, just contact Renee or Angie. They can get you all the information that you need in order to get in touch with them. Definitely you're going to want to, during the meeting, have some sort of a session, maybe a day or two ahead of time, maybe meet in the speaker ready room. Just make sure that everybody's on board. Make sure that everybody's got their presentations uploaded. You can start uploading. When's the first day we can start uploading, Renee? Is it anytime?
It's going to start on I believe it's the second week of September, but we have a follow-up email that we're going to send out after this, and I'll make sure that's in there.
Okay. I mean, the reality is most people are uploading their presentations sometime during the meeting. just make sure that you upload it at least 24 hours prior to the panel or to the presentation. Just double check it, preview it, make sure that your videos are working properly, because it's always kind of a disappointment when there's a glitch and something's not formatted properly or a video doesn't work properly. So just troubleshoot, go over everything 24 hours in advance, and make sure that everything is all set to go. So, I can't emphasize the importance of kind of planning ahead, making sure that everybody's on board, speaker order presentations there, and that the timing is right. And then, most importantly, just leave time for Q&A, because that's something that, looking at reviews year after year, some people constantly are saying, we wish there was more time for Q&A. So if you've got a 1 hour panel, leave 10 or 15 minutes at the end. Just adjust the presentations accordingly. And as the moderator, encourage the people in the audience to email their questions, to text their questions, to use the microphone to ask questions. And the moderator should be thinking of questions too. So as you're listening to the presentations, kind of formulate questions in your mind. Don't be afraid to challenge the speakers, create controversy, create discussion. That's what makes this more entertaining, but more importantly, more educational, because if people can understand the pros and cons or an alternative point of view, it just makes things that much more impactful. If you do have a chance to kind of look over the presentations, make sure that everybody's not saying the same thing. Redundancy is something that I personally try to avoid unless there's like a dueling perspectives. You have two people talking about different ways to do one thing. That's fine, but if it's a dueling perspectives, but just make sure that everybody's not talking about, using a breast reconstruction analogy, how to do direct to implant breast reconstruction. You gotta mix it up a little bit. Somebody's gonna have to talk about 2-stage, somebody's gonna have to talk about delayed, somebody's gonna have to talk about 1-stage. Whatever your area is, just make sure that there isn't a lot of redundancy. Kind of keep everything fresh, keep everything current, and again, just try to come up with good questions for everybody. We've talked about the time elements. Just because there's so many concurrent sessions, people are going to have to go wherever they have to go. Kind of control the Q&A portion. Some questions can be very verbose, some answers can be very verbose, and it's okay for the moderator to kind of step in, interject, and kind of direct the flow and the content and move on, especially if there are a lot of questions. Sometimes you can get, these question hogs up there and, ask, a 20-part question, and probably try to kind of minimize that, but just kind of be aware of that. The other thing to kind of keep in mind is there will be a clock on the podium, so the moderator can kind of keep an eye on the clock to make sure that everybody is staying within their allotted time frame. Some other things, dealing with administrative things. There's going to be, especially in the last month now, there are probably going to be a number of emails that are going to be going back and forth. Angie and Renee are going to be reaching out to panelists and moderators and other speakers. If you get an email, please respond, because it's real timing now we're coming down to the wire, and sometimes we can't wait a few days or a week for a reply. So when you get those emails, reply as soon as possible, just so we can kind of move on, fill holes, fill gaps, and make sure that everything's flowing smoothly. Learning objectives. If you have not provided learning objectives for your panel, please do so. In fact, I think at the end, like in the next few hours or tomorrow, more emails will be set just to kind of make sure that everybody has their learning objectives for their instructional courses, these panels, all set up and ready to go. Those are all things that were really due a while ago, but there are still people who have not provided learning objectives. And it's all important for CME. In order to really qualify for CME, these things have to be in place. Otherwise, it becomes problematic for future events if we don't comply with all the rules. Just some other housekeeping things. If you are really late with your presentation, just keep in mind that it can't be accepted if it's 1 hour before the presentation. So don't think you can just kind of walk up to the panel and just load up your talk. It doesn't work like that. It has to be uploaded at least 1 hour before. Obviously, we want it 24 hours before, but just kind of keep that in mind. External uploads preferred. I mean, there's got to be ways you can do all this through the internet, including videos. I mean, there should be capacity to upload some of these high megabyte files. You know, if you've got a lot of videos and you may have, 500 megabytes or 900 megabytes, there should be ways to upload all that, or you can just do that when you're there, prior to it.
The site will be available. I'm sorry, Dr. Nagvini, just to extend on that. The upload site is going to be available as soon as we launch it. It will not end. There used to be a time where it would kind of be put on hold or something. It's not going to be put on hold. You'll be able to upload your talks the day before the meeting starts. So, if you have any questions or if you run into any problems, again, just contact Angie or myself at ASPS and we'll be able to help you out.
Perfect. Disclosures and conflicts of interest. Just make sure that everybody has the appropriate conflict of interest on their slides, that these things have been submitted to the society. Usually when you go through the whole enrollment and registration as a speaker, you're going to have to do all this, but again, it has to be on your slides as well. And when people get up to ask questions, again, always have them talk about where they're from and what conflicts and disclosures they may have. Again, we've got a lot of panels. We're expecting the attendance to be through the roof this year. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the more, highly attended ones that we've ever had. So these panels are filling up quickly. The instructional courses are filling up quickly. Some of them are already full. Some of the cadaver sessions are already full. So just kind of plan ahead, encourage people to sign up early so that they'll be able to attend some of these things. There will be, at the podium, when you are up there moderating, there will be housekeeping notes available so that you can just kind of update the audience and keep the panelists updated as well. There will be audience response as well. So that's always been a big crowd favorite, and the exact ARS format, I'm not sure of. Renee may have that. I don't know if it's going to be through our cell phones or if there's actually going to be ARS units that are available.
Philip's going to talk about that in a minute after we've gotten through all of our updates.
Okay.
So he'll be able to give a demo for everybody on the call tonight.
I don't know. I think I've pretty much covered everything that I needed to cover. So I mean, I'd like to kind of if Renee has other things to add that I didn't, this would be a good chance. And then this is a chance for anybody on the call, if they have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them. So this is kind of, if there's anything that's kind of burning or anything that you're not sure of, just let us know and we can answer them either now or via email. We're basically, on top of this 24/7. So we're always, answering questions, troubleshooting, putting out little fires, making sure everything is tidy. So why don't you go ahead and add a few things, Renee, that you found necessary?
Yeah, there's just a couple of things that I had in addition to what you had gone through. Very comprehensive, so thank you. The panel and courses, if there's any needs that you have in terms of, for example, cadaver demonstrations, if you have instruments or anything that you need for those, please, if you haven't already given us a list of what you need, please make sure that you get us that list. For the most part, we've received everything, but if there are any special panels or if you're looking to do anything out of the ordinary with your panel or your course and you need some supplies, just let us know and we'll do our best to help out with that. In addition, there's also some individuals have been contacted by our guidelines and measures team. So if you've been contacted, we're going to follow up with some additional information around those guidelines and measures and provide you with some slides and some scripting. It's one slide per measure and just a line of text to really give some people an update about where we're at with those and really pull all the education together for that. But those will be sent out over the next couple of days. So if you don't receive it, it just means that you didn't have a guideline or measure that lined up, that aligned with the topic of interest that you have. But other than that, you know, if you do receive it and if you have any questions about it, obviously feel free to reach out to us. We're here to answer your questions. In regards to the interactive polling, we do have Poll Everywhere, which Philip from Freeman AV is on the line, and he's going to take us through that just so that you guys can see what that looks like, as well as the audience response system for multiple choice questions. But we have actually gone downgraded our technology in some cases. So in the official program this year, just to give some additional opportunity for interaction with the audience, we have these pages that are going to be red and green. So you open up your OP, flip it over, and you can either show red or you show green. And you can say to people, you know, how many of you think that we should be doing A, and how many of you think that we should be doing B, just in case you did use the ARS or didn't use the Poll Everywhere. And they can just very quickly say red or green, you know, green for yes or red for no, or however you want to designate those colors. It's a low-tech way of on-the-fly question answer and making sure that the entire audience is engaged. So there's some opportunities for that. And then the last thing I had was just to reiterate that at this point, if Angie Purgatorio is the one that's reaching out to everybody, so if she emails you, it's because we need something. So she's working with almost 600 faculty this year because we have so many concurrent sessions, and we're so happy to have all of you as a part of the program. But every day she's going to be reaching out to people that she needs things from. So if she does reach out to you, please just look out for her name if you could. Dr. Nahabedian, does that cover everything that we were thinking?
I think that's pretty comprehensive. I think we've covered everything. I mean, I had a list and we went through everything that was on that list. So I don't know if this is a good time for Q&A or we'll.
Mina came back with a question about any reason we can't have Facebook Live panels. I will tell you this, Kyle Diller from our office is very interested in Facebook Live panels. And if you are interested in having your panel broadcast during Facebook Live, it'll just be a snippet of it. But if you're interested in that, please let me know, and we can definitely work with Kyle to see if we can make that happen.
Great.
Did anybody else have any questions or anything that they wanted to bring up prior to a review of our interactive polling? I haven't seen anything else. So let me go ahead and introduce Philip. Philip is one of the gentlemen that we have on the line from Freeman AV. I think John Rivera, you're on the line as well. Thank you. So if you do have any questions about the audio-visual equipment or technology that we use, tonight is the night to answer the question because the experts are on the phone. But let me turn it over to Philip so that he can kind of walk us through what the Poll Everywhere and audience response technology is. So Philip, if you want to share your screen.
Yep. Thank you very much. What I'll first do, and Renee, has this instruction sheet been sent out to the moderators yet? The Word document?
No, it's going to go out. So this is perfect. Yep, it's going to go out with the rest of the updates that we're sending out after this conference call.
Okay, well, good, because I'm going to have to update this because Poll Everywhere has made a change. They've actually made it a little more intuitive, and you'll see when I go to the website how it actually is going to make it a little better for all the users. So we do have this Word document. It's a single page. It's going to go out to all the moderators. We'll have it also on the head table in all the rooms. Each moderator will have a laptop on stage to handle the audience questions, so the incoming questions from the audience. I'm going to show you both I'm going to focus more on the incoming questions, but I'll also show you a little bit of the polling questions that the presenters could ask the audience to get their engagement. So each room is going to have its own web page that we will set up as the home page on that laptop on stage. The instructions for polling is going to be very important that the moderators at the beginning of the session introduce that the session is interactive. We will accept questions throughout from the audience. So as soon as the presenter mentions something and a question comes to mind, they don't have to wait till the end and get to a microphone. They can send in their question either via the web using, for this example, for room 175AB, it would be polev.com/175AB, or they can text to this number 22333 West 175AB, and they join that session, and they can participate in both submitting questions and answering any interactive questions. The key is when you select the question, we're going to have questions. I call it a question, and that we have to set up what we call an open-ended question for each session. So there'll be a list, and I'll show you the page, and it'll make more sense. So this one, for example, you'll open up the what questions do you have for the comprehensive abdominoplasty session. So now they know what session they're in, and that's what the questions are associated with. When the question is active, there will be a dialog box where they will be able to see the questions that come in. You will be able to scroll through. As more questions come in, this bar will populate telling you you have more. They just click on it and questions will be submitted. So as I mentioned, it's going to be important and incumbent on the moderators to introduce this every single session, that this is the question, that we're open for questions, because it'll seem redundant, but if you don't do it every time, people won't participate. This will never go to screen, so whatever the moderator is looking at will never go to screen, so they'll see all the questions that come in, and they can choose which ones are the best and which ones they want to ask the panel at the end of the session. There will still be microphones in the room, and if it does happen where people do go to a microphone, my recommendation is to alternate. Someone asks a question from the floor, you go to then some of the interactive questions that have submitted, and then if someone else gets up to the microphone, and as was mentioned earlier, timing is very important. If you don't leave time at the end of the session to do Q&A, then people submit questions, and if they're not seeing that they're being used, then later on they may just decide, well, I'm not going to submit any more questions because every time I submit them, none of them are used because we've run out of time during the session. So again, as the moderator, keeping the session on time and keeping time for Q&A is very important. So let me go to a better view of the page. And I'm also going to open up and on this side, see, can I minimize this or move this out of the way? Yeah. So this is what the audience would see when they join the session, when nothing is active. So I've gone on the web and I've gone to W175AB, and it tells them, welcome, you're in this session. And as soon as polls are displayed, they'll come up. This is what the moderator's homepage will look like. So as I've done some examples, these sessions may not be in that room. Renee sent me a list of some sessions. I just created this room, and these are the sessions. So if it's Friday and we're in this Reno minimizing second procedure session, they simply click on that question. It opens up, and here's where I'll show you where some of the changes that they made. So now, instead of just that icon that you saw earlier, they actually have, this is to activate the question. So right now, the question is, this is some old data, so I just wanted to put in there, and let me enable moderation. So when you activate the question, now the audience member sees this. So now when they log in, they see what questions do you have for this. So now at this point, at any time, they can, put in any type of question that they have. And they hit submit. There we go. Now it's coming here. So the moderation was turned off. So now the questions are all down below here. So I'll just type in just randomly, just so you see how that other bar works. So a new question comes in, and this is where they see the load one more question. So if they get 3 or 4 questions and they look at them, this yellow bar will then highlight anytime a new question comes in. As soon as they click on that, it brings it in. If they see some questions that are inappropriate or anything else, they can always hit hide. It just grays it out. If they hit show, let's say they say this is the one that they want, one of the questions they want to ask, they can hit show and it'll put them up there. Now, as I mentioned, this computer will never go to screen, so the audience won't know which questions the moderator picked as the ones that they want to ask. But that gives them a way to say, okay, let's put a couple of questions up there that I know I want to ask at the end of the session. So while the panel is doing their presentations, the moderator can be watching the time, but also be watching these incoming questions. Now, as Renee mentioned, all the sessions are having this capability, and all the presenters have the ability to ask polling questions during the session. So if they want to ask a multiple choice question, this is where, again, the moderator will have to keep an eye on this page, because only one question can be open at any one time. So I'm just going to pop back here and just activate a multiple choice question that I have here. And if I click on the icon here and I activate it, as you see on the audience device, it changes now to this is their question that they can respond to. So let's say this person chooses blue. They're good to go. Well, now what happened to the open-ended question is it's no longer active. So sorry, it's taking a second on the hotel internet to come back up. So now as the moderator, when that polling question is done and they've gone through it, they see that this is no longer blue. They have to re-click that, and now it re-triggers the audience to be able to now submit additional questions. So it's important that if your session has both the Q&A and the presenters doing polling questions, that in between polling questions, you'll have to reactivate this open-ended question to receive more questions from the audience. And you'll see the fact that it'll go away from that blue will change to, now if you have your own mobile device and you log in as you join as well, you'll then be able to see it. You don't have to submit a question. You could if you wanted to on your device. You think of a question, you could use the system to submit it. But then you'll also see, okay, this is what the audience is seeing. Oh, okay, they're not seeing the question. Oh yeah, it's not active. So let me activate it. A polling question goes, okay, the polling's done. Oh, it's still on the polling question. So let me reactivate this. So you're able to turn it on or turn it off. Maybe there's a session that you don't want them to be submitting questions throughout. You want to give 1 or 2 presenters an opportunity to give a presentation. You could make it you could make it inactive until a certain time. If you do that, I would say make sure the audience is aware that, yes, we're still going to do the questions through the polling and be prepared, but I'm not going to open it up just yet. I want you to say, hear this or hear maybe, as was mentioned, maybe a dueling discussion on the same topic. Let them each do their thing and then open up the question. So you do have some flexibility on when you open the polling. I recommend it always be live throughout. That way, whenever someone has a question come to their mind, they can submit it at that time. I'm sure we've all been in a session where the presenter says something and you think of a question, and then by the time it gets to the Q&A, it's like, what was that question I was going to ask? Or someone else jumps up to the microphone, gets ahead of you, and then you don't get to ask your question. So this allows them throughout the whole session to submit.
And
just
Philip,
on the
this
polling
is the kind
question,
of thing that you can, this is the kind of thing that you'll walk through with them in Speaker Ready too, right? So
Yes.
that way, if they have any
And-
questions, they go to speaker ready.
Yes. So I'll be there in Speaker Ready to help with the moderators with this. I'll be able to help the presenters with the polling. If you want to do the polling, I would greatly appreciate more than 24 hours in advance for the submission for those presentations. Obviously, we don't know what volume we're going to get, so I would prefer a couple of days. Once it's submitted, we'll create the polling slides and insert them into your presentation. The presenters can still go into Speaker Ready Room and edit the file. We lock you out of uploading a new file because of the programming has been done, but you can edit that file. If for any reason you have major changes that were made and you do have to upload a brand new file, we can unlock the profile, allow you to upload the file, and then we can reinsert the question slides into that presentation, given obviously enough time. So if it's the day before, that shouldn't be a problem, because once the slides are created, it's a matter of just copy and paste. One of the other things too that's different this year in Speaker Ready Room is we're going to have a practice stage where we're going to have it set up just like it's going to be in the meeting room. There'll be a head table, there'll be the moderator's laptop, there'll be the Mac and the PC at the podium. There'll be a confidence monitor to simulate the screen, what the audience is going to see. So the moderators can go up there and get familiar with it. The presenters can go up there and practice. They can see everything, touch the mouse, see where everything's going to be, and be familiar with what it's going to look like in the actual meeting room. I think that's going to be hopefully a big success. I know with other shows that we do it the first year, it's used a bit, and then people start seeing it and they realize this is a good idea, and most of them continue it on, and it gets used more and more. Sometimes there's waiting, people are waiting in line to get up on stage and really see it. So we set everything up almost exactly the way it would be in the room, except for the big screens, and they get to play around with it and get familiar, which is a great help. And we show them what it looks like in the room, how they click on their name and open up their presentation, and can run through the full thing. Some of them even will practice their whole presentation up there. That's all I have right now. If there's any questions on this side of things, I'd be willing to answer any questions.
So just to be clear about a couple of things. One, obviously this is a technology that's available to help with the interaction with the audience and try and make the education that we provide more engaging, as well as giving the audience that opportunity, as Dr. Nahabedian had pointed out, to ask questions, because that question answer time is really so important to them. With the audience response, where you are putting a slide into your presentation that generates a multiple choice response option, those are very easy to add to your presentation. This year, when you are uploading your slides, all you need to do is create one slide that has the question on it with the answers, and then Philip and his team will go in and they will create the actual technology, the back end of that slide for you, and do all of the technology magic. So you don't have to know technology magic. Philip does it for you. And when you upload your slides to the speaker portal, you just indicate that you do have a question for ARS, for the audience response system, and that will trigger his team to know that they have to create that slide. So they do try and make it incredibly easy for you.
Sorry, Renee. The first thing that will happen, there'll be the first initial, when you log in, there'll be an initial question. Because we're using both Mac and PC, there's going to be an initial question asking you which one you're using. So because it is very important on the technology side, especially for the Poll Everywhere, for the polling questions, if the presentation was created on and being presented on a Mac versus a PC. So that'll be your first question. You'll have to answer that. The next thing, when you get to your session, those of you that have used presentation management in the past, normally you see a green upload button. So you'll see your list of sessions that you're presenting in, and each one will have its own green upload button. Well, this year, since we're offering the polling, it will be changed to a yellowish color, which will say set ARS mode. And when you click on that, it will come up and basically be a reminder question saying this session is an interactive session. Are you using the audience response? So it's not for the moderators or that. It's not, are you using it for the Q&A? It's, are you going to ask the audience multiple choice questions? When they say no, it closes out and they see the green upload button. When they say yes, it does the same thing, but then when they upload that file, it goes into a special queue for me to know that this presenter said yes for ARS, so now I need to review their file, find their questions, do the programming, and upload that new file. Once it's uploaded, as I mentioned earlier, we'll lock them out of uploading a new file. And we remove the original file so that there's no confusion that the wrong file is opened in the room. There'll just be the one file that will be uploaded. And as I mentioned, they can go in and edit that file as much as they need to, or request to be unlocked and then upload a new file. And then that way, by the requesting of an unlock, then I know to make sure that, okay, this one I know it's going to still has questions, and I need to reinsert those polling questions into that presentation.
Perfect. Thanks, Philip. So two things. One, as we know, this call is being recorded, so you'll be able to refer back to Philip's amazing presentation should you have any questions and want to refer to it. In addition to that, when we send out the email with additional information regarding speaker slide upload and so forth, as we pointed out, Philip's one-page tutorial on this will also be sent to everyone so that you have an opportunity to review it there. Again, this technology is optional, but we have used the ARS, the audience response system, in programs like the Greatest Hits, Best of, as well as Iron Surgeon, and so on and so forth, and in a couple of different presentations. And we've gotten tremendous feedback about it, and we've had other speakers ask us to make it available, so we've made it available to everyone. So if you have any questions or if you want to get additional information, and we can always connect you to Philip, we can certainly do that. But just wanted to make sure that we at least made sure that everybody knows that this is an opportunity this year that we've opened up. Dr. Nahabini, did you have anything else, or were there any questions for Philip? I don't see anything coming up on the chat, but we will see.
I think we're good. You know, we've pretty much used up our 45 minutes, so I think, you know, if nobody else has any questions, we can kind of wrap it up. But just so everybody knows, we're always available if anybody does have questions.
Perfect. All right. Let us know. And thank you again so much for all the time and expertise that you're lending to the meeting. It means so much to the organization as well as to all of the learners, and we look forward to sharing all the wonderful feedback with you.
All right.
Thank you. See you in Chicago.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks very much.
So long.